The thick mustache, the red Ferrari, and that steady, serious gaze. Tom Selleck was once the man America trusted every Friday night. Through Magnum P.I., he didn't just become an icon of the 1980s. He redefined the image of the quiet, honorable hero. But behind that symbol was a life full of contradiction, a former soldier who once collapsed from exhaustion, and a man of principle who faced public backlash across his home state, accused of misusing resources during a devastating drought. Today, on a quiet 65-acre ranch, he lives far from the spotlight, choosing a life of privacy, away from both fame and scandal, as if those years under scrutiny never happened. Tom Selleck never lived to please the crowd. He chose silence and let time speak for him. So, what does it take for a man to protect his dignity for over 4 decades through fame, through storms of public opinion, and beyond? If you enjoy videos like this, please remember to hit the like button. It really helps us out, and feel free to leave a comment below. Born in 1945, just after the end of World War II, Tom grew up in a modest rented apartment in Detroit, Michigan. His father was a carpenter, his mother a homemaker. The family wasn't destitute, but there was always a sense of not having quite enough. Winters were bitterly cold, the windows frosted over, and the floors were covered with worn-out rugs. Some nights, dinner was nothing more than toast and watered-down soup. Do you remember those post-war years when a warm home and a full belly were all a family needed to feel at peace? For the Sellecks, that was daily life. Tom didn't complain. He helped his mother in the kitchen, followed his father to job sites, and earned pocket money delivering newspapers or handing out flyers. Back then, American kids grew up with AM radio, baseball games, and cowboy reruns on weekend TV. Tom was no different every time he heard a broadcast. It felt like a window opening to a bigger world beyond their tiny apartment. By the late 1950s, the Selleck family moved to Sherman Oaks, California. The sun was brighter there, but life didn't get any easier. Tom felt out of place in the new school, never the standout, never the talkative type. To fit in, he took on whatever jobs he could find, mowing lawns, babysitting, running errands. Quiet perseverance became his way, and it didn't go unnoticed. One teacher told him, "You've got a strong presence. You should try the stage." Tom didn't believe it. Still, at 17, he decided to audition for a small school play. He stood in line with a few dozen others, barely prepared. All he remembers is that his hands trembled, but for once, his eyes didn't drop to the floor. He read slowly, clearly not perfect, but sincere. The young director didn't applaud, but gave a knowing smile. And in that moment, Tom felt something stir inside, a sense of belonging to something larger for the very first time. Who would have thought that from a high school stage, a future legend of American television was beginning to take root? The quiet boy from frigid Detroit had found his voice, and he never looked back. Hollywood in the 1960s looked like a dream, glamorous, golden, and full of promise. But for Tom Selleck, a college dropout and former military man, it felt more like a place where every door already had a key holder. Tom didn't come from the stage. He came from the basketball court, a scholarship athlete at the University of Southern California. He had a stable path ahead, but he gave up his final year not because he failed, but because something else was calling the world of film. His parents were disappointed. Friends were skeptical, but Tom knew if he didn't try, he'd never know how far he could go. Soon after, Tom was drafted. He served 6 years in the California National Guard, not on the battlefield, but under strict training and discipline. Those years shaped his sense of commitment, teamwork, and quiet strength qualities that would later become part of his on-screen identity. Yet when he returned, Hollywood still wasn't ready to open its doors. Tom worked as a model, filmed cigarette and beer commercials, even promoted cologne. On set, he was lucky to get a few lines. At every audition, he heard the same feedback. "You're not well known enough. It's not the right time." It's hard to believe, but for nearly a decade, this tall, confident man faced rejection after rejection simply because he wasn't famous yet. He didn't get angry, and he didn't quit. Instead, he studied, observed, and kept working. From the Rockford Files to the Sacketts to countless forgotten TV roles, Tom slowly earned respect. That steady, grounded presence started catching the eyes of directors. Then came the break. In 1980, after nearly 15 years of persistence, Tom was cast as the lead in Magnum P.I. He played a former Navy investigator living in Hawaii with a red Ferrari and a personality that was both humorous and deeply principled. It was a role tailor-made for him. He didn't have to act like someone else, he simply had to be himself. And that honesty struck a chord with millions. Perhaps every quiet effort is preparing us for the most important moment of our lives. We just have to wait for our turn. Magnum P.I. quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Tom's signature mustache, Hawaiian shirts, and calm smile were in nearly every American household by the early 80s. In 1984, he won an Emmy not for gimmicks, but for strength and sincerity. But success came with a cost. The grueling 90-hour work weeks left him exhausted. At one point, he was on the verge of burning out completely, rather than let the pressure consume him. Tom made a bold decision. He stepped away from the show in 1988, right at the peak of his fame, to protect his health and prioritize his family. From soft-spoken model to television legend, Tom didn't rise quickly, but he went far, and every step of the way left a mark. Not every star holds on to their light for half a century, but Tom Selleck, with his trademark mustache, quiet smile, and the eyes of a man who's lived, has endured through the decades on the strength of his values alone. It all began in 1980 when Magnum P.I. first hit the airwaves. As Thomas Magnum, a reserved Vietnam vet living in Hawaii, driving a red Ferrari, and fighting for justice, Tom quickly became a cultural icon. The role earned him an Emmy in 1984 and helped usher in a new era of lighthearted action dramas on American television. But Tom's career didn't stop there. From 3 Men and a Baby, the highest-grossing comedy of 1987, to his memorable role as Dr. Richard Burke on Friends, which brought him another Emmy nomination in 2000. Tom proved he could move between television and film with rare ease. And then came Blue Bloods, a definitive chapter. From 2010 to 2024, over 275 episodes, he anchored the role of Commissioner Frank Reagan, a character that's become one of the most enduring figures in network television. Financially, Tom never chased stardom for its own sake, yet he became one of the highest-paid actors of his time. At the peak of Magnum P.I., his earnings were estimated at $500,000 per episode, over $1 million in today's dollars. With Blue Bloods, he continued earning roughly $200,000 per episode, maintaining a steady net worth around $30 million. Beyond acting, Tom owns TWWS Productions, the company behind the Jesse Stone series projects that not only brought in millions in revenue, but also reinforced Tom's image as a thoughtful artist with vision and principle. His success wasn't built in a single night. It was shaped over thousands of days of not giving up. After years in the spotlight and million-dollar paychecks, Tom Selleck didn't seek lavish penthouses or towering condos. He chose something more luxurious, a place to slow down. In 1988, following his exit from Magnum P.I., Tom purchased a 65-acre ranch in Ventura County, California, for about $5 million at the time. For many, it looked like retreat, but for Tom, it was a way to stay grounded amid the pressures of fame. The main house is a nearly 8,000-square-foot Spanish-style estate, tucked behind avocado trees and rolling hills. With its terracotta roof tiles, arched doorways, and exposed wooden beams, it feels like a piece of 1930s California preserved in time. But the real charm lies in the quiet details. Inside, The living room is where Tom plays old jazz records, reads historical novels, and sips scotch on Friday evenings. The decor is understated, just a few black and white photographs, a weathered piano, and bookshelves he built himself. The kitchen opens to a rooftop vegetable garden where he grows tomatoes, bell peppers, and basil. He once joked, "I don't eat avocados, but I know how to keep them fresher than any chef." Out back, he even added a small golf green, his personal way to unwind after long days on set. More than anything, what Tom values is privacy. No paparazzi, no horns, just him, his wife Jilly Mack, and quiet mornings with the windows open and birdsong drifting in. In a world where everything is shared, Tom chose not to perform happiness, just to live it. And if those walls could talk, they'd tell thousands of stories about a man who was once the biggest name on television, yet still waters his own plants, checks the plumbing, and opens the gate for friends himself. No staff needed. He once owned a beach house in Hawaii, a piece of his Magnum PI years, which sold for about $2.5 million in 2001. Later, he bought a discreet Edwardian apartment in Los Angeles with mahogany wood interiors and hand-laid tile floors, not to show off, but to feel like he was living, not acting. All of Tom's homes share one thing in common: they don't need anyone's praise to hold value. Like him, they're steady, understated, and shine without the spotlight. In the shaded garage behind his ranch, surrounded by ivy-covered walls, sits a car collection that's anything but flashy, but each vehicle holds a memory. And for Tom, that's what real luxury looks like. There are no screaming Italian supercars, no gleaming trophies on wheels. Tom Selleck's collection is like the man himself, quiet, thoughtful, and steeped in nostalgia. His most famous car, of course, is the Ferrari 308 GTS, the one that starred alongside him in Magnum PI. Though several were used on set, Tom kept one for himself, not as an investment, but as a keepsake. Each time he starts it up, he hears the show's iconic theme play softly in his mind, a quiet thank you to the role that changed his life. Today, the car could fetch over $300,000, but to Tom, it's not about the price. It's about what it meant. He also owns a Porsche 928, a classic sports car he drove during breaks between filming. Silver exterior, simple leather interior, clean, but not flashy. He isn't fussy, but he believes if you love a machine, you care for it like it's part of your home. Today, it could be valued around $150,000, but again, its worth to Tom isn't measured in dollars. Another favorite is a vintage soft-top Porsche 356. Friends say this was the car he drove while dating Jilly Mack. And though he could afford a dozen newer models, he's kept this one as a reminder of where they began. On the collector's market, original 356s can sell for $250,000 to $500,000 depending on condition. Tom doesn't love speed. He's a quiet man, somewhat reserved. He once said, "I don't drive fast. I drive to reflect on where I've been." His car's original paint, untouched interiors are kept just as they were. No flashy upgrades, no resprays. He values the honesty of time. And even though he could hire someone to maintain the garage, Tom still washes the cars himself every weekend. It's a simple routine, but one that keeps him connected to something real in a world of constant performance. Because for him, cars aren't just vehicles, they're vessels of memory and places of peace once the stage lights dim. If success grants power, then for Tom Selleck, it also granted him something rare: the power to walk away from the noise, from the red carpets, and back toward a life where the mornings begin with the crow of a rooster and dirt beneath your fingernails. Tom is known as a man of principle, and his greatest principle is this: never let work consume life. Despite earning millions per season, he still prefers to work on the ranch watering plants, checking the fence line, even chopping wood when needed. One neighbor once said they saw Tom loading fertilizer onto an old pickup and spreading it by hand, just like any other farmer. His luxury isn't about quantity, it's about quality. A hand-brewed cup of coffee, an afternoon spent reading in the garden, an evening walk with his wife, and no cameras following behind. He's not on social media. He doesn't seek attention at Hollywood parties because he doesn't need it. Family is the foundation of Tom's life. Married to Jillie Mack since 1987, their union is one of the rare enduring love stories in Hollywood. They live with their daughter, Hannah, whom Tom calls the gentlest light I've ever known. As a stepfather to Kevin Shepard, Jillie's son from a previous relationship, Tom has always treated him as his own, building a household grounded in warmth and stability. On days off from filming, he avoids the phone, skips interviews. Instead, he takes Jillie to the local farmer's market or drives Hannah to horseback riding, because beyond all the scripts and awards, what truly keeps Tom Selleck standing tall in a fast-changing world is home. Tom Selleck, the calm, steadfast face of American television, once faced a controversy that shook the very foundation of his career. And it didn't begin in Hollywood. It began with a water spigot. In 2015, during one of the worst droughts in California's history, headlines broke. Tom and his wife were accused of using over 1 million gallons of public water to irrigate their avocado ranch in Ventura, as residents across the state cut back on showers and let their lawns go dry. The image of a celebrity's ranch being watered by truckloads became a lightning rod for public outrage. Local newspapers ran harsh headlines, reporters, cameras, and interview requests crowded the ranch gates. Some nearby residents who once smiled at Tom over coffee now looked at him with something closer to betrayal. But in the eye of the storm, Tom didn't go on television. He didn't issue a public apology. No PR team rushed to defend him. He did one thing, paid $21,000 to cover the cost of the investigation, and stopped using the water source. He didn't admit guilt, didn't argue back. He simply accepted the consequence and moved on quietly. The scandal didn't cost him his role, but it did cause him to retreat. Neighbors recalled that for several months afterward, Tom was rarely seen beyond his ranch. Still, no one heard him complain. The lights stayed on every morning. The same man, quietly continuing to live right even when the world didn't seem to be on his side. It wasn't the first time Tom had weathered a storm. In 2018, amid heated national debates over gun control following a string of school shootings, he quietly stepped down from the board of the National Rifle Association, a group he had represented publicly for years. He didn't make a speech, he didn't pen an op-ed. Some called it betrayal, others called it brave. Tom said only to a friend, it just didn't feel right to stay. And long before that, during the height of Magnum PI, the relentless pace nearly broke him. In the 1980s, working 90-hour weeks, Tom was sometimes on set while running a fever. One crew member recalled a scene where he rested his head on a desk mid-shoot from sheer exhaustion. That was the moment he knew it was time to step back, not because he'd fallen out of love with the role, but because he had to protect his health and family. 3 turning points, 3 different trials, one from the public, one from personal conviction, and one from physical strain. And in each case, Tom chose the same path, no drama, no resistance, just quiet correction and forward motion. While many stars of his era stumbled through crises, Tom chose endurance. And maybe that choice in a world full of flash and noise is what's earned him something even greater than fame, respect. Do you think a Hollywood star can leave behind a legacy greater than fame? At over 70, Tom Selleck proves it's possible not just through the roles he's played, but through the quiet, deliberate way he lives each day. From forgettable supporting roles in the 1970s, Tom turned Magnum PI into a cultural phenomenon and carried Blue Bloods through 275 episodes over 14 seasons. If you ever watched Magnum PI on a weeknight in the 1980s, you probably remember feeling like Tom was a friend in your living room. Unlike many stars chasing the spotlight, he brought authenticity and became a steady presence in an ever-changing Hollywood. For over 30 years, Tom has been the face of Paralyzed Veterans of America, listening to veterans, raising funds quietly, without fanfare. At one event in California, he sat for hours with an injured soldier, then later sent a large donation, no press release, no cameras. In 2024, during the Salvation Army's Celebration of Hope Gala, Tom shared the story of a family rescued after a flood and brought the room to its feet in applause. If you've ever done good simply because it was the right thing to do, then you understand why Tom gives the way he does. Far from the glitz of Hollywood, Tom lives on a ranch in Ventura where he wakes up early, walks past rows of avocado trees, and repairs the horse barn roof with the same hands that once held a prop gun on Magnum PI. Each morning, he sits with his wife, Jilly Mack, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise, what he calls my way of remembering who I am. At our age, who doesn't value the quiet joy of simple moments like that? Since 1987, Tom and Jilly have weathered life's ups and downs together. With their daughter Hannah, he's been the kind of father who always shows up at riding lessons. And later, with guidance when life grew more complicated. Tom once said his proudest moment wasn't winning an Emmy, it was hearing Hannah call him the best dad I could ever ask for. From a newspaper boy braving the cold streets of Detroit to a beloved TV icon whose career has spanned generations, Tom Selleck's story isn't one of fleeting stardom. It's a testament to perseverance, kindness, and a life of quiet fulfillment. He hasn't just shown us what it means to be a star, he's shown us what it means to live with integrity, even when the world is at its most uncertain. What do you believe is the most important thing to leave behind after a life full of change? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. If this video brought you inspiration, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Thank you for listening, and keep living a life you can be proud of.